Explore the history, relationships, expertise, and data that go into ensuring Stine growers get maximum yield potential. This is the Stine Seedcast. Here's your host, David Thompson.
Hello, and welcome to the Stine Seedcast. I'm your host, David Thompson, National Marketing and Sales Director for Stine Seed Company. We've got another great episode lined up with special guests, expert insights, and discussion on everything you need to know about maximizing yield potential. On today's episode, our special guest is Ignacio Rosasco, General Manager of Stine Argentina. Welcome to the show, Ignacio.
Welcome, and thank you very much, David.
So in 2018, Ignacio joined the Stine team as the General Manager of Stine Argentina. In his role, he oversees the sales of our corn and soybean products in the country and helps spread the word of our STINE HAS YIELD promise to growers throughout the region. Today, we're going to learn about Ignacio's background in agriculture, the different agronomic practices taking place in South America, and our sales growth since our introduction to the South American market. So let's get started. Well, Ignacio, really glad to have you on the podcast. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had Rodney Pennico come on the Seedcast, and he talked about our long history of research in the South American region. And now we're going to get an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Stine brand and the presence in South America. So we're looking forward to that. But before we get started with that, I wonder if you just give our listeners a little bit of background. So where you came from and where you live.
Okay. Well, David, again, thank you for this invite. And in my career, I'm an agronomist engineer. I graduated in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. Then I have a master's degree in negotiation. And all my life working seed.
Okay.
On the beginning of my career, I work in family company, that is Cargill. I worked in Cargill during 13 years, activities, production, commercialization, research. And after that, we moved to GDM, Don Mario. I worked in Don Mario 19 years. Be involved in the relation between Don Mario and Stine. That gave me the possibility to meet Harry and Harry families and the business locally. And after that, as you mentioned, in 2018, I started working and opened a company in South America related with Harry.
Great. So yeah, the point being, you've had a long history, like you said, your whole career in the seed business, and in particular working with typically privately held companies. You mentioned Cargill in there early on, and then eventually moving on to Don Mario. Don Mario is an organization that a lot of us in the seed business wondered if you talk a little bit about their presence in South America and how they fit in that region.
Yes, Don Mario is a company that grew on the back of Stine. At that time, it was a very small company, family company too, and they have the focus that we have here at Stine in seed. So they started a relation under counter-season activities that at that time, so Don Mario gave the counter-season service to Stine, and that gave the possibility to the company to start related with Stine and copy some system in research, and began the possibility in South America region, in Brazil, obviously is the most important country, and he started to develop soybean and growth in that market and give a strong position at that moment and up to now in research and marketing in soybean activities.
Sure. So during those days, Stine was working collaboratively with GDM, Don Mario, for our off-season production. And meanwhile, GDM was doing work for the South American market. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, okay, so coming from that, then you obviously fostered a relationship with Harry and got to know the Stine brand fairly well. Tell us a little bit about the progression to the point where, you know, the decision was made that, hey, we should think about launching Stine brand as a retail brand in South America. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, okay. It was funny because in 1917, there was an ASTA Congress. Harry invited me to open the company in South America. That was in 2017. So at that time, we decided to start to create a company in the region. That year, we used to open and create all that is necessary to launch the company in 2018. So we produced some corn in Argentina at the beginning. And in January the 1st in 2018, we decided to launch our commercial corn Stine brand in Argentina. At the same time, in 2019, we opened the company in Brazil. In 2020, we opened Stine brand in Uruguay. And in 2022, we opened Stine brand in Paraguay. So up to now, we have the Stine brand in 4 countries in South America: Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. In 3 countries, our commercialization is in the 2 crops, corn and soybean. Just in Paraguay, only corn, because the Inlist and Conquista technology is not allowed in Paraguay at this moment. So that is the only reason we are not selling soybean in that country. But in the other 3 countries, we have a good penetration in the beginning. Is obviously we have only 5 years or 6 years or 7 years in the market. And to create a new position and to create a brand, as you know, it's very hard and tough for do that.
Well, and I guess for me, that's kind of fun to hear these stories because, of course, I've been here a long time, since 1998, but the brand existed a long time before me. And so it's fun to watch your folks take in and build this brand from nothing into a brand new market. It's so exciting to hear your stories and talk about the true launch of Stine, because most of us around here weren't around to see that here in this part of the world.
You're right. But one advantage that we had there, before we opened the company in the region, every year many producer or people come to Stine and visit Stine operation in the US, and they know the brand. So in the region they have many interest into what is Stine and why Stine is not in South America. So when we went there and we launched the brand, the people are more interested in our brand Stine, and when you want to have a very good products and want to compete in the market. So in my opinion, the benefit for the brand is the farmer, because the farmer right now they have another option, just not only the traditional families or the traditional multinational companies. They have a new brand with a different style and different relationship with them. So I think it was a very successful future for Stine.
And so you kind of led into another question that I was going to have is, like you said, the Stine brand being relatively new to the market. My question was going to be, but was the Stine name known much in the region, or is it really about, just starting from zero? You kind of sounds like growers were at least aware of the Stine name.
Yeah, you're right. On the beginning, I asked that question to Harry. We have 2 possibilities to begin in the market. One is to buy some company, and the other one is to create a new company, start to zero, from zero to growing up. And Harry told me, Nacho, I would like to, on the beginning, to growth. So we want to maintain the focus in our business. And he told me our mission is to have a good product and establish yield. So that is our. It's easy to set, but it's not easy to obtain, because we demand too much time in research, in evaluation, and all the Stine model that you have in the US is exactly that we use in South America.
So recapping, you said, okay, so you have operations in Argentina and Brazil and Uruguay and Paraguay. You mentioned Paraguay not being eligible for Inlist E3, and that prompts me to another question or another comment. So we have a product, or there's a product sold that's important to your area, being Conquista, right?
Yes.
That is not a product that's common to us in the North American market. So I wonder if you just kind of give everybody an idea of what Inlist E3 Conquista represents for the market that you serve.
Yes, E3 Conquista is a trait that they have, an insect protection. Is very important in the Brazilian market and in Argentina North market. It's a event that we launched 3 years ago. So the penetration, we are on the beginning, but we expect to have a very high % of that. So up to now, I think that we are around in Argentina around 5 to 10%, and in Brazil around 5%. But we expect to grow in the next season around 15% in Brazil and 20% in Argentina. So the penetration will be very high. Obviously, that is a product that demand, so we might need to be with a good genetics on the back, and we think that we are in that project.
Yeah, and so I guess, again, for our listeners here in the North American market, probably the parallel would be much like in corn here,
Yes.
where you can have corn that is just, conventional, or you can have it with insect traits in it. Conquista would be an insect trait in the soybean itself, which
Yes.
is designed to protect that plant from the various pests that you have. And what would be the main pests that you're trying to tackle there with Conquista?
No, we try to control all the lepidopters. Lepidopters,
Yep.
insectine. So that is the most important critical in the region.
Okay. Well, like I said, that's something that's not very common here, but I know it's going to be a big thing for the market that you're in. So you talked about starting this brand, starting it from scratch, but having, I guess, the benefit of at least the name recognition of Stine. Wondered if you could talk a little bit about, I'm sure there were challenges in getting started in the market, and at the same time, probably some great opportunities. Wonder if you talk a little bit about the ups and downs of launching a brand like Stine in South America.
Okay, yes. Thank you for the question. I think that our position, we need to split for countries. So in Argentina, we have the possibility to launch the companies in the corn business, the possibility to segregate the hybrid according to maturity. In Argentina, in general, all the corn is around 120 days, maturity days. So we decide to launch a new style of hybrid that we call short, not in tall, if short in the period. So it's around 114 to 118 maturity days. So we propose to the farmer to late planting, more established product, and the yield will be a little low because you're planting late in the window that you have the period for corn, but you have less investment, but very established yield. And the farmer accept that because, as you know, in Argentina, in the last 3 years, we have a very important drought period, and that affects the yield. And the farmers start looking at a very short maturity season corn, and they give us a possibility to grow it in the market. So up to now, we continue growth in the corn business in Argentina will be around 200,000 units up to now. So for us, it's a very important and good number. And we compete with this group of hybrid with very important companies. Then we have another positioning in the corn that we call early planting. So they are that is more American genetics.
Okay.
That's the 9734, 9736 here for the US, and we export to Argentina. So that gives the possibility to use some US genetics in Argentinian corn. So that gives us a position in corn and the possibility to offer to the farmer a different genetics, different planting time.
Sure. So, yeah, and that makes sense. So you're with the earlier maturing lineup, you're saying, hey, we know we're going to have this sort of droughty period. And so if you adjust your planting, plant a much earlier hybrid, plant it later in the season, maybe you're going to beat the heat or kind of avoid that particular production issue, and that meets the need for those growers in that area. And then you can use fuller season hybrids where you've got the ability to let that fully mature. You mentioned something there I want to touch on. You talked about some of the products that we sell here, you also sell in South America. And so then by nature, I assume then you have genetics that are primarily for your market that we don't necessarily see here.
Yes, you are right. That happens not only in corn, in soybean. Argentina is very healthy with they have the possibility to use the same US genetics. So that gives us an acceleration in the position of the new soybean varieties. In Brazil, it's 100% different because that in Brazil, we need to create the unique soybean varieties. So we need to cross and we need to select for maturities around 7 to 9 maturity groups. So we have to work very hard and in the selection, in the crossing activities in Brazil. As you know, that Brazil is a very difficult country to get in or get out seed. So we must need to have a production in counter season internal Brazil. So at this time, we have our research location in Mato Grosso state. The name of the city is Luca do Rio Verde. Now we have there the greenhouse and we cross 100% of our soybean in that location. Then we move the seed to another state in Brazil that the name is Tocantins, that's where we have our first generation. After that, we move the seed to the south of Brazil, so we have our second generation, and then we go again to look at Mato Grosso state. So in 1 year, we have 3 generations, the same that we have in Argentina between US or Guyana. So in Argentina, we use US, and in Brazil, we might need to move it internally, the state to grow the 3 generation per year to try to accelerate the market access for the maturity.
But it sounds like depending on the environment and the situation, you have different production systems and different ways you have to address. Sounds like Brazil's kind of a whole different animal compared to Argentina, for example. The other thing I'd mention here, I guess, is I think it's interesting that you can use some material that's produced in the U.S. One of the things I think that was exciting for us up here in the North American market is last year represented the first time that our team was able to sell an Enlist E3 soybean that began its life in your South American breeding program. So there's kind of a nice connection between the programs where certainly breeding in both markets can prove dividends for the other market, and so that's kind of exciting.
Yes, that you mentioned, David, is very important because Stine soybean genetic is the most important program in the world, and to be part of that program for us is very, very important, and I think that is a win-win because we continue adding some genetics unique in that program, and we see that we want to give a potential growing in the research and a potential growing in the yield, just not for Argentina or South America, just for North American too. So that is very important just for the Stine brand.
So, Ignacio, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, here in our North American market, Stine has what I describe as a blended approach to the market. So we have really great dealerships that we work with collaboratively to sell seed to farmers. And then in areas where we don't have good representation, we do have a mechanism to be able to sell direct to the farmer. Can you talk a little bit about the go-to-market approach in South America, and is that similar or is it different?
I think that is different in our brand.
Okay.
And I think it's good, David, if you give me a possibility to talk about by country, because it's different, the situation by country.
Sure.
So in Argentina, the relation between the farmer and the brand and dependent crops, in soybean, we use that we call multiplier. The multiplier is similar than you use in the U.S. that the facility companies, that they have some UBS for processing and all of that.
Okay.
But in general, in Argentina, we create the multiplier. So we look a farmer that they have the land and they have the possibility to process in soybean, and they like to be in the market with the soybean. So they introduce in business activities, and this farmer or this multiplier, they bought it to us the breeder seed or the basic seed. They increase the soybean variety and they sold the soybean in the market. So this is the relation between the soybean and the farmer. So we sell it to the multiplier, the seed, they increase and they go directly to the farmer. That is in the soybean activities.
Okay.
In the corn activity, in general, we use directly sales to the farming. So we have our commercial team, and they go and visit after yield try evaluation and head-to-head and timing. But our most important access in soybean, in corn, is directly sales. So we don't use any reps, nothing.
Okay.
In Brazil, in soybean, we use the same. We use the multiplier. The difference that in Brazil, that multiplier, there are companies. These people try to push his own brand. So they have the farming, they have the facilities, and they're a commercial company. So they pushing up his own brand. So they try to sell Stine plus his brand in the bags or in the communication. And in the corn, we use the same, dependent state. In Mato Grosso, the most important sale is direct sales to the farming. And outside Mato Grosso, we use some commercial companies or commercial nets. But in general, it's more one-to-one.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because when you talk about multipliers, so I think that's a little bit of a difference between the North American market. In our world, we would have, seed conditioning plants or seed production facilities, and certainly some of those go on to sell seed out of their own production. But what you're describing is certainly a little different than what we're used to, but it's very interesting. So in that case, the seed production facility also has a sales team and goes out and sells to growers. So
yes, and one point that I add, in Brazil, I think it will be similar than here. The soybean business is by seed in the bags. In Argentina, the bags is per kilograms. It's not we don't size the soybean seed. In Brazil, yes, we size it the same than in the U.S.
So you have different weights and measures depending on the country.
Yep.
Okay. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, we had Rodney Pennico come on. We talked about some of the operations that we have down there. And I guess I wondered, how does your team interact with Stine and the various research operations that are happening there? How does that kind of fit together?
I think that the connection was great, and that gave the possibility to Stine US to continue growing in the market. For us, it's very important, that activity. That is one of the reasons that I decided one of my son, Manuel, is in charge of that activities. And Manuel have a good relation with all the US team, with Rodney, Justin, Chuck, and all the US team, and which is a proposal to try to increase or accelerate the soybean business and the soybean research in the country, in Argentina, to come back to the US. But for us, it's very important because at the same time that we are accelerating the process for the US, gave us the possibility to select and see some unique variety that maybe we want to have the possibility to use in the future in Argentina market. So that they gave us a possibility to continue working and be related with the US team, and give us a possibility to grow in the market too.
So I was thinking, Ignacio, when we think about launching that brand down there, one of the things here in North America, of course, there's a long reputation with Stine brand and an affiliation predominantly with the soybean side of the business. Anywhere you go, pretty much in North America, people know the Stine name is synonymous with great soybeans. And I know you said there was already an awareness of Stine down there, but as you've launched the brand just recently, is there a larger awareness of the soybean business, or has the brand arrived as a true corn and soybean combo, or what does that look like?
Well, it's a very good question, and very not easy to answer, because really the most important farmers or the most important influencers know Stine, but they must need to try and they must need to confirm what Stine said is true and is adapted for that condition. So the farmer trusts in the name, that give to us a very important possibility, but we must need to confirm that really Stine has yield. So they must need to evaluate, they must need to respect time to time to be an option for that for planting.
Well, I guess no matter where you are in the world for farmers, seeing is believing, right?
Yes.
So wondering a little bit of update, I guess, you're obviously here visiting with us here in Iowa, but back home in South America, just generally speaking, crop conditions, weather, how's the season progressing at this point?
Well, the same. Sorry for that. I want to open in the different countries.
Yep.
This year in the region, in Argentina region, the year was very good. So after the 2023, we have a very important drought in Argentina, and we have a very bad result. This season was great. So we expect to have a very good yield in corn and soybean, and that good conditioning growing, or it was positive too for the counter season from Stine. So we want to receive it in the US, a very good quantity of seed. So the condition in Argentina was so good. That was important. In Brazil, on the beginning of the planting time, we have very important drought. So the farmer delay the soybean planting. Just to know, in Brazil, they start planting the soybean in September. And after that soybean, they planting the safrinha corn. They start planting in January. So if they delayed the soybean planting, they have the risky in the corn because they postponed the corn planting. And after April, they do not have rainies. So the critical period for the corn maybe was during the dry season, and that affect the yield.
Sure.
So that beginning in Brazil was a period without raining, impact in the corn planting around 7% in the total area in reduction. So that is very important because will be around 2 million hectares. They cancel to planting corn and move it to cotton or late soybean. That is the most important crop for the farmer in Mato Grosso or in the north of Brazil. South of Brazil, they have a very good rainy, but just very similar than Argentina. So they have one crop per year. So they're planting or corn or soybean. I do not have the chance to the two crops that they have in the north of the Brazil. So in general, what I said is Argentina, good weather, good result, and good possibility in the yield this season. Brazil, late start of the irrigation, but at the end, they want to have a good season too.
And in terms of overall latitude, I guess, Ignacio, as I think about it, probably the market you serve covers a wider range of latitude than even we do in North America, going from the southern tip of Canada down into Texas. Would that be fair to say?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So obviously you're going to have a lot of weather and a lot of different conditions,
Yes.
just like we do here. Some places good, some not so good. Well, so Ignacio, as we start to wrap things up here, I guess my closing question to you would be just thinking about, where you've come from and thinking about where you expect or where you want to see Stine brand, let's say 5 years from now or 10 years from now. What do you envision there?
My vision is that Stine will be a magnificent growth. That is the future for me from the Stine brand in the region.
Now, that's a great vision to have.
Yeah. I think that that Stine is the most important point to maintain the focus in seed. We need to continue the relation with the farmer. That gives us the possibility to be in the correct way. We don't need to innovate in that way. So the relation, the focus on seed, and the evaluation is the most important key for us to growth in the market, to be sure that the information that we gave to the farmers is the correct. And after that, we use all the technician or all the new system they have in communication or assist the person, but the result, focus on seed and relationship is, for me, the key from continued growth in the Stine company.
Very good. Awesome. Well, Ignacio, again, appreciate you joining us on the podcast today. Appreciate the work that you and your team do every day to help grow the brand, globally, and especially in your part of the world there in South America. So certainly appreciate your time being here today, and thanks for the conversation.
Thank you, David. I don't know if correct or not, but sorry for my English. I prefer to be better than that I spoke, but that I have that level. So my idea is to try to communicate why Stine is a good known name in South America, is a good brand. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you your English is better than my Spanish, so appreciate you doing this in English. Well, that's our time for today. I'd like to thank our guests and our listeners for joining us for another episode of the Stine Seedcast. We'll be back again soon with more expert interviews and insights about all things Stine. And to never miss an episode, subscribe to the Stine Seedcast wherever podcasts are found.
Subscribe to the Stine Seedcast wherever podcasts are found. To learn more about Stine and its elite corn and soybean genetics, visit stineseed.com. Stine has yield.